Hi, I'm SoCal Honey Badger, and that was my intro.
Because the way damage scaling works, like every hit you add to the combo does less damage and hit stun, right? So like, and they have less gravity. So the more hits you add, the harder your combo becomes until the combo eventually becomes impossible. That's to stop infinites. Jabs are very like low, like the numbers that jabs give you are very, very low. So every time you add a jab, you're adding to the scaling, but you're also like not adding to your damage that much. Does that make any sense? Right? So it's like instead of adding 5 jabs that do 10 damage each, do one move that does 50 damage, and you won't have the scaling of all those jabs in your combo. Your combo will actually do more damage, right? So like, let me show you an example, okay? Okay, throw does 180, okay? So the throw on its own is 180. Okay. So that combo is 12 hits and did 340, right? Oh, you fucking bastard! You bastard! Okay, 371, and it was 11 hits, right? That's the key. So the first combo had more hits and did less damage. The second combo had less hits and did more damage, because the most damaging move in all of those combos, right, is the grab. The grab gave us 180. Right? 202. So the grab is 202, right? That's 58 or 58. That's 109. So like you look at like the less hits you have, but the bigger they are, because you have to end it with the grab. That's the ender. So you want to do as few hits as possible before you get to the grab, in order for the grab to hit as hard as it possibly can, because the more hits you add, the more scaled it is. So in like ye olden days, fighting games would have infinite combos. They just did, right? Because combos are a glitch. They're not an intended thing in fighting games. They're a glitch that people just liked, so they leave them in. And then it eventually became a cornerstone of the genre. Honestly, combos are what saved fighting games. If combos didn't exist, fighting games would be dead. They wouldn't have lasted through the 90s. No fucking way. No fucking way. Because like after, you know, like Street Fighter and MK had like their big heyday, and then right after they were starting to wane, Doom and specifically GoldenEye were really starting to take off. And like after Doom and GoldenEye really took off, like first-person shooters fought to the moon, like flew to the moon, right? They just, right? There was no stopping first-person shooters. And fighting games slowly but surely just kind of went to the wayside. What kept them going was that the depth, right? The depth of combos and stuff like that. Like people kept finding new tech and kept wanting to play them because they kept finding new shit to do. So it kept people coming back, right? So combos save fighting games. But games would have obnoxious combos, like infinite combos. Like, dude, Shiva in MK3 has an infinite combo which is down and high kick until they die, right? Like, she has a combo where if she lands a jump kick at a certain height when you're in the corner, she could just juggle you with crouching kicks all day. She would just crouching kick, and you would just get bounced on, and they would literally just win by pressing one button. Like, people complain about ice climbers in Smash. That was like almost every fighting game in the 90s. Like, they just had, I remember doing a fucking bootleg ass Kano Infinite in MK1. Like if you hit him with a jump kick at a certain height in the corner, he could juggle them with low punch forever, and they would just bounce off his fist, and you would infinite them to death. Like that shit was all over fighting games. So fighting game developers were trying to come up with ways to like get around that, and they all kind of failed at it. The closest that got to fixing that issue was Marvel 2 with the Undizzy. So like in Marvel 2, when you would do a combo, after a certain number of hits, they would just fall out automatically, and they would be dizzied, and then you would get another hit, but you couldn't combo after that dizzy state hit, and like that was it, and then you had to start another combo. But players ended up getting around that anyways by finding infinites that worked even around the dizzy mechanic, and they just went for resets, and that's kind of what made Marvel 2 stick, was that like infinite combo tech didn't save Marvel. It was reset tech, right? It was finding nifty resets to start new combos, and that's kind of what kept Marvel 2 going. Mortal Kombat 4 just had max damage, right? So you would just, like, if you did a combo, it didn't matter how many hits or what you did in those hits. If you hit, like, what was it, like 40,000 damage or whatever, you go, and your characters would explode and fly across the screen and go, maximum damage, and that was it. Like, you couldn't do any more damage than that. And your combo would end, and you would reset back to neutral. So it didn't even matter, like, there was no depth to it. It was just hit them until you hit max damage, and then, like, reset to neutral. There was no, like, oh, okay, I'm going to, like, end with a knockdown or end with a wall carry or something. It was just, like, maximum damage. So like the developer that actually solved the issue for the most part of infinite combos and shit like that was Arc System. I believe it was with the first Guilty Gear. Guilty Gear is like the most innovative franchise in fighting games. The majority of things you find in fighting games, especially 2D fighting games, came from Guilty Gear. Like hook, line, and sinker. Like they just, everybody just rips off Guilty Gear. But what they did in Guilty Gear is they came up with a bunch of subsystems because they liked combos, and they knew that combos were really what was keeping people coming back, was finding new combos and doing new combos. But they also knew that the more open and free you allow your combo system to be, the more you start getting like infinites and stuff like that. And infinites are not fun, right? You just get juggled to death with one combo, and you're like, oh, I died. I made one wrong guess, and now I died. So nobody likes that stuff. Which actually, there was an interesting interview I saw with Mike Z, who everybody hates right now. But he brought up a good point, and he said people don't hate infinites. They hate touch of deaths. It's just infinites are boring to look at because they're repetitive. Whereas a touch of death, I mean, it still sucks, and people don't like it. And I was like, yeah, that's an interesting thought about it. Like, nobody likes a touch of death combo. It's just infinites are boring, so people complain about them more. But what Guilty Gear did to solve this problem was they added a couple of things. They added scaling, right? So every move did a certain amount of damage, but the more moves you did in a combo, the less damage they would do. That's why in like old like Street Fighter, like Super Turbo and games like that, like you could literally melt 60% of someone's health with like a 3-hit combo. Like I think Ryu's jumping roundhouse into crouching fierce into fierce dragon punch or fierce tatsu or roundhouse tatsu, like jumping hard kick into crouching hard punch into like hard special move. I can't remember if it was tatsu or dragon punch, was like 60% of your health. And that's a 3-hit combo, right? Like damage was just nuts in those old games. It was so nuts that like there probably were infinite combos, but you never needed them because you could kill people without them. So Guilty Gear added scaling, that the more hits you added to a combo, the less each hit did. So like longer combos eventually stopped doing any damage, right? Even if you found an infinite combo, eventually you're doing 1 pixel of damage, and like the match is just going to take forever because you're not actually getting any closer to killing them. You're just doing a pixel of damage with each hit. The second thing they added was hit stun scaling, right? So with hit stun scaling, every time you hit somebody, they're in hit stun. They're like, I got a hit, and then you hit them again, and that's a combo, right? Well, what they did was they made that animation shorter, right, for every hit in the combo until eventually there was no hit stun. You'd hit them and they wouldn't even flinch. It was like they had armor, right? You'd hit them and they wouldn't even move. So even if you found an infinite combo, in Guilty Gear, and even if you were going to be a huge dick and say, you know what, I'm going to do the infinite combo, and even though I'm not doing any damage and it's just doing 1 pixel of damage, as long as I have the health lead, I'll just do this combo until time runs out and then I win. That's not fun either, right? That's lame. Like, now your match is like a half an hour long of like this guy hitting the same 3-move loop. So they had the hit stun scaling was to stop that. Even if you found an infinite combo, eventually they would just fall, like they would just stop being in the combo. Like you'd hit them, like say the move was punch, punch, kick, punch, punch, kick, punch, punch, kick, punch, punch, kick. Eventually there'd be no hit stun and they could just block and they could wait it out, right? So the other thing was, well, what if I juggle them and I launch them in the air and I juggle them and I do the infinite combo in the air? Like, even with the hit stun scaling, since they're falling, right, I can launch them back up and knock them up again and again and again and just keep them juggled. And, like, it doesn't even matter about the hit stun scaling because they have to go through the falling animation first and hit the ground before they can block again. So they added gravity scaling, right? So every time in a combo, every hit you add to that combo makes them fall faster and they juggle up lower. So like say I do a combo, right? Let me put my hands at the bottom of the screen, right? And I launch you, boom, and you go up here, right? And then boom, and then boom. And I launch you with like a super launch. You're up here, right? I do the combo, boom, 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 boom. Launch you again. Now you're a little bit lower and you're falling faster. Launch you again, now you're a little lower and you're falling faster. Launch you again, now you just fall and you can't even get the last hit, right? So with damage scaling of infinites just doing less and less damage, with hit stun scaling, with you being stunned less and less per hit, and with gravity of I can't even relaunch you to get like the fall animation, that was how they solved the issue of infinites in Guilty Gear. And every game after Guilty Gear saw that and was like, that's fucking brilliant. You guys solved it. To the best of everybody else's, the best of everybody else's ability. I know Skullgirls added the infinite protection system to where it actually keeps track of what moves you do, and if you do a certain move in a combo too many times, it eventually lets them break out of that combo for free. But that's on top of the innovations that Guilty Gear added. And then obviously they added bursts and things like that. But nobody has been able to answer the problem of infinite combos better than Guilty Gear since then. And those systems are in Mortal Kombat, right? So if I do a combo, I launch you up, and that's why you're better off not adding like 50 fucking jabs to your combo. You want to do you want to use jabs as like a filler to like relaunch them to get them in a juggle state where your next move can hit, right? But you actually want to do as few moves as possible. This is with every fighting game. Every fighting game, you want to do as few moves as possible before you get to your ender, so that way the ender is scaled less. That's how you structure a combo, right? Your combo is combo starter and combo ender, and then all that other shit is filler, right? But your starter is what gives you the hit stun properties of the juggle to get the combo. Your ender is your most damaging move, right? It hits the hardest. And then everything else is just filler to get there. But the more filler you add, the less damage your big move does. So you want to do less moves so that way the big move hits as hard as possible. And so that's why you don't really want to fill your combos up with jabs. That's why when I do Johnny Cage combos, like I don't, you'll see Johnny Cage's like launch you in the corner and the jab, 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 1, 2, 1, shadow kick or whatever. And like I only do like 1 or 2 jabs. I rarely go to like 3. Some Johnnies will do like 5. If you're going for like a restand, then max damage doesn't matter. But usually I try to cut it off at like 1 or 2 just because I want the scaling to not really affect the last hit of my damage. Plus, I don't play Johnny like seriously. He's like an alt that I screw around with. So I don't know what's the optimal number of jabs. Maybe it is 3. Maybe it is 5. But as a general rule, in any fighting game, when you're doing any kind of combo, you want to do as few hits as possible for max damage. then, the depth comes from like combo branching. Like, do you want wall carry? Do you want wake up setups? Do you want to reset? Do you want to restand? Do you want, all of these things? Those kind of change where you go with your damage. But if you're just looking for maximum damage, I just want to hit as hard as possible, then you want to do as few hits, and every hit has to be the most damaging move, right? So, like, you look at Kotal, like, that does 70 damage, that does 50, that does 30, and that does 20. So, like, when you're trying to do a combo, like, maybe you'll do something like that, right? Hold on. Right? You're going to be like, how do I land this move in my combo? Right? Can I get that standing 4? I can do that. Oh, there we go. I'll do that. Like, you want to get those big moves in there as hard as you can, or as many times as you can before you go any further. But yeah, that's how combo scaling and combo damage and combo structure works.
Hey, so if you follow YouTube enough, you know that they like to put weird stuff all over the screen for the last 30 seconds. So this is going to fill that space. Yeah. It's probably right there and there. All over the place right now. Yeah, go ahead and click that stuff if you want. And that's 30 seconds.